Meanwhile, an influential Muslim group, the Council on American Islamic Relations Chicago chapter, with this statement, quote, "We stand squarely against vigilante violence, even against those who may be complicit in genocide. It is lawless and criminal. We also reject the cynical attempts to link an act of a lone wolf to the movement of tens of thousands of peaceful anti-genocide protesters on our streets and in our schools. The fact is, the shooter departed from our peaceful movements, instead choosing to adopt Israeli government tactics. Israel assassinated 7 foreign embassy personnel in Damascus a year ago. Lastly, we urge the media and the public to show equal concern for all victims of violence. For months, hundreds of innocent Gazan children have been slaughtered and thousands now face deadly starvation. I have yet to receive a request for a statement. I reject the insinuation that their lives are any less worthy. Their stories deserve the same attention, outrage, and empathy." There is a lot to unpack in that statement, and joining us now is the head of CAIR-Chicago, Ahmed, Rehab. Ahmed, good to see you again. I have to take issue with one of the things you said. You say you condemn this, quote, "even for supporters of genocide." These are 2 innocent murder victims. Why include that statement?
Well, because I know what you don't know, which is there's a lot of chatter on social media, those individuals pointing out that 1 or 2 of these individuals were associated with the genocide, with the Israeli government that is undertaking the current genocide that you and I see on our TVs every day. So my statement is actually going out of its way to say, even if that is the case, these individuals should not be targeted for harm. So it's a very strong statement. It's made stronger by this addition, not weaker by this addition.
Let me read some of the background of Sarah Milgram, one of the victims. She was one of the embassy staffers. She was, quote, "a devoted and active volunteer for Tech to Peace, an organization that provides entrepreneurial training to young Palestinians and Israelis alongside conflict dialogue." Does she deserve to be referred to as a supporter of genocide, or potentially a supporter of genocide?
But this statement does not refer to her as a supporter of genocide.
So you're saying the gentleman, Yaron...
Well, regardless, I'm saying even if someone is proven to be a supporter of genocide, even then you cannot harm these individuals. You should not target these individuals with assassination. So I'm going further in my statement to say, regardless of whether someone is against the genocide or for it, human life here should be sacred in America. Debra Silverstein, for example, she's somebody who has voted in City Hall against the ceasefire to allow the continuous mass murder of children. I don't think that she should be someone who should be put in harm's way, even though I disagree with her politically. Even though I think that she's allowed this to happen.
When you mentioned they adopted Israeli tactics,
yes.
Israeli government tactics, it seems like this statement of support was actually maybe a veiled insult on supporters of the Israeli cause.
No,
say that.
So that reference that you just made now is in reference to the shooter, not to the victims, that he adopted the Israeli tactics of targeting personnel at embassies, which is a factual statement.
But to include that he's adopting Israeli government tactics in a statement.
I mean, as a journalist, facts should be a good thing for you.
But where you're condemning an act of violence against 2 victims that happen to be supporters of Israel or Jewish.
But you can walk and chew gum. So I condemn these acts completely and fully and without equivocation. No buts or ifs, full stop, end of the line. New paragraph, new line. The fact of the matter is hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of innocent human beings are being killed every single day in Gaza by this government, the Israeli government, and the IDF soldiers who are involved in the military campaigns in Gaza. We're not hearing condemnations here from the same politicians. We're not getting invitations to studios to talk about these dead children. Their lives matter too. And so both of these things are true. One does not take away from the other. I condemn this murder. This is an invitation to chaos. We cannot allow this to stand. There cannot be vigilante violence against individuals regardless of their position.
Your own cause, too.
Of course.
When it is a peaceful, you want it to be a peaceful cause.
Our cause is peaceful, and this person is not associated with our cause. As a matter of fact, I completely condemn any remarks that suggest cynically that he is somehow associated with our cause, like Debra Silverstein's comments, that are attempting to link a very peaceful movement. You're not going to get assassinated walking into a campus where you're seeing dancing and prayer amongst these students who are just against the murder of innocent children. That's their cause. This individual is not part of that peaceful movement. And his actions are an invitation to chaos, and they're criminal, and I have no empathy for him.
And your point about the media perhaps not covering the death, the slaughter of Gazans, innocent Gazans, with the same level of perhaps attention that they are covering some of this. I can only speak on Chicago and what's happened here, and I can say that we've covered the death of Wadi, the murder of Wadi al-Fayumi.
And I've been in the studio with you before talking about these things. So
we do want...
Present company accepted. But
hate is hate. Hate is hate, and we want to cover it if it's against the Muslim community, the Jewish community.
Yeah, but Paris, here's the narrative that we're missing. This is a fact, that there hasn't been the same outrage that I share now with others who are outraged against this crime when it comes to the innocent civilians in Gaza that are being murdered every day. And this includes people like Debra Silverstein, who has no moral ground to stand on to talk about how our movement is or isn't, because she has stood with a government that's been killing innocent people every single day and starving them to death, you know, banning cordons of trucks of food and aid to children who are dying because they can't find milk and basic foods and medicines.
But what she's saying is her community, the Jewish community, feels unsafe now because they feel targeted. At least can you sympathize with folks feeling unsafe, whether they support the Israeli government or not? These are Chicago or American residents.
There's no doubt about that, and our statements have always been in that direction.
And not to minimize the Muslim communities felt unsafe,
look,
of course.
CAIR-Chicago's position and mine has been consistently for 2 decades against violence. We basically follow in Martin Luther King's ideology of, you know, standing up against hate and always being aligned with nonviolent, peaceful resistance to hatred and to what is happening in the world that is evil and ugly. So that's never changed. Our position has always been clear, and we condemn this act not to please or placate, but because these are our principles. However, her and others have not spoken out in the same outrage that we have today, and it's genuine outrage. This is an act of chaos and an act of unbecomely violence against the same kind of violence that's being perpetrated by the state actors in Israel that they support. They will come in the studio and tell you that they're supporters of Israel. I'm not a supporter of Hamas. I've never said I'm a supporter of Hamas. And yet questions are put to me about Hamas's actions. They are proud supporters of Israel, but somehow we're not supposed to ask them about Israel and the accountability Israel is supposed to have for the murder of children and innocent people.
All right, Ahmed, Rehab, this is a conversation we do need to continue, so we will do that. But for now, thanks for joining us, and we will be back.